Self-belief can be a major issue that young athletes struggle with. Today I'm here with Coach Slack talking about self-belief and how you can help young athletes believe in themselves. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name is Josiah and I'm here today with Coach Slack discussing self-belief in young athletes. Make sure that if you are a fan of this channel, if you're a fan of this content, want to learn more about wrestling, that you hit to that subscribe button. Now, Slack is a junior high coach at Canon-McMillan High School, as well as running his own club, Wrestling with Virtue, here in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. Slack, first, you want to talk a little bit about that?
The location, Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. Yes, something I'm very proud of. Being born and raised in the Canonsburg area. Growing up in a really, when we're speaking specifically wrestling, a hotbed of wrestling. Of course, there's been many great wrestlers, as you and I well know, throughout the 100 years of this program that have come through the program. But more than anything, I think that separates Canonsburg, Pennsylvania, and makes it a little bit more unique than most wrestling, even wrestling communities. Is the community support, of course. Very proud of it, definitely a wrestling community.
And especially with your club, discuss that a little bit, helping young athletes with Wrestling with Virtue. Can you discuss that a little bit?
Absolutely. So as you had mentioned in the intro, and as you know, as I coached during your era, I've been a coach at Canon-McMillan School District for 23 years. And over the last few years, this building adjacent to the middle school where I coached the junior high wrestling program opened up for sale. It was a armory with the National Guard, and they combined with another unit, built a brand new facility. This came up for sale. A local man who I'd been coaching his wrestling sons ended up helping to purchase, secure the purchase for Youth for Christ campus. And they had asked me to perhaps move into here and use the facility as a wrestling club or program. And so, knowing the time commitment, I was a little reluctant at first, but now this is my second year, and it's really been a great opportunity to not only touch the lives of the Canon-McMillan students, but now the surrounding areas, most closely Peters Township, Chartiers, Houston, and then building out. I got kids from Baldwin, Shaler, even come as far as an hour or more away now. And so it's been a great opportunity that I'm glad that I did commit to.
And I love what you're doing. I think it's so great for these young athletes. It's something great in their life, great building block in their life to help build that character. Now, discussing self-doubt that may creep into the minds of some of these young athletes, that can be something that's very difficult, is self-belief. So what do you have to say about that?
Right. So, in your question here, I'm hearing a few words that are very important to me in dealing with this matter. Number one, you'd mentioned character. So here at Wrestling with Virtue, and I think all coaches of all sports should be very focused on character development. It's definitely a very vocalized, purposeful mission here at the Wrestling with Virtue Wrestling Club. Alongside techniques of wrestling, teaching those, we're definitely every day giving a lesson on a virtue or a character attribute that I really think that all our young students and all us as human beings should attain. And so character development, I think, is really important. And when you're talking self-belief and kind of like a self-confidence kind of builder, especially the younger athletes, take the pressure off. I think the character development part of this program is helping that, because it's alleviating the focus on just winning and losing. When we just base things on winning and losing, especially in something as challenging, as tough as the sport of wrestling, where you're going to win and lose multiple times a lot in your early career. So if you're not handling, if your focus is, your goals are just outcome-based, winning and losing, every time you lose, it's a blow to your goals. It's a failure, okay? Whereas I think alongside, hey, we're focusing on the character development of the young athlete. We're attaining hard work, humility, perseverance, all the qualities that every ultimate athlete we would want to eventually have. We got to start young and make that the focus. Not winning and losing when they're young. The character development helps shift the focus enough for the parents, the coaches, when it's vocalized and put out there as the main focus, and the students. So if they win or lose, they can still say, hey, did I persevere through that match? Did I work my hardest in that match? Was I a sportsman? And checking off, yes, goal accomplished, goal accomplished. So even in a loss, you're building their self-belief, their self-confidence. Okay, I might have lost in points, but I persevered and I went further than I ever did personally. So that's a performance-based goal alongside the character development and the shifting of the focus from just winning and losing and winning state championships and being starters and these kind of cut and dry. Leave it a little bit more for room for a hope and future, especially the younger they are. Now you get into college, guys, they've got to know plenty by then whether they want to persist in the career. So maybe then a little more constructive criticism, for the ones who need that little bit of edginess.
And that was actually kind of my next question was with that, like the college athletes, because there are some athletes that, they go undefeated in high school, or they're that 4-time state champion or whatever it is, and they get to college and they have that first loss. Maybe it's early on in the season, like the first match of the season. They come to college and that hits them hard. What would you say to an athlete like in that situation?
So this is another important thing to me. So we're talking shifting at the end of high school and deciding that this student athlete wants to continue on into both athletics and academics into their adulthood, into their college years. So, if you've had a student from the time they started until they got to college that had the attitude that I'm just trying to improve. Every time I wake up, I'm thankful for a new day to be better than who I was yesterday. Every time I go into the classroom, I'm thankful for the opportunity because I have a chance to get it right. Even if I blew the quiz on Wednesday, it's Friday. I studied harder, I doubled up my efforts, and now I'm going to get this test accomplished. When I step into a math room, my goal is to be the hardest working person in there. So if I've improved, it doesn't matter what happens surrounding it. So if we develop that attitude where even in the competition, it's kind of like practice of my craft. I'm learning the art of wrestling through my competition. So I tell it to my athletes here, my older kids all the time. I say, look, if you do persist in wrestling college, everybody in the room was their team's best kid. I tell that all the time. When you reach the college level, you might have been the best kid in your whole room, but guess what? So is everybody else in that room now. So it's a new start. So you got to have humility. So if you've had the right attitude that I'm here to get better, and I'm going to be humble, and I'm just going to put my head down, work hard, pay attention, do everything that's asked of me, then taking a loss early in your college career is not going to affect you because it's an opportunity to learn if you have that attitude in place. Now, if you've reached that point in your career, you're 20 years old, and you're still getting a little bit too upset, too emotional about your winning and losing at that point, you probably are restricting your overall development. But hopefully that's put in place a long time ago. Hopefully the elementary age youth coaches have instilled that. And as the kids mature more, junior high and in the high school years, they start to internalize it and grasp it themselves. If I'm finding it's vocalized. We cannot, I don't think, anymore in society, because we're dealing with kids that are YouTubing for several hours a day, on up into the college level. Social media is a big part of life. I was sitting at the Penn State Navy match a few weeks ago. I was up there as a guest with the Khazars and had dinner with them, and he did a camp for me. We became family friends, share a lot of things in common. But anyway, there was I think an older high school age kid. He looked pretty good. He had some Disney Duel shirts and shorts on. And the whole time I was watching him like Snapchat or something. Like see pictures, like random snapshots. And then so even like a 17, 18-year-old kid is spending a lot of time on the phone. So as coaches, I don't think start youth, but all the way through college, we've got to be ahead of this curve in a sense of we can't just expect character development to happen as we're teaching the sport of wrestling and as they're dealing with winning and losing. I think we need to vocalize it. Make sure it's something that's on their focus radar too, from a younger age the better, because it gets instilled. It's like learning a language, right?
Yeah.
It's learning an attitude, it's like learning a language. The younger you start, the easier it is for you to develop the attitude, the character development. Know that that's the goal. And if that's in place by college, then coach has got to know how to push that kid's buttons to get the most out. And they got to be humble. Like you said, the best kid from every school is now in one room.
And I think that's very interesting and all very important what you said. Now, if you are interested in learning more from wrestling tips and videos like this, make sure that you hit this button so you can watch more.